Uncle James, hello, how are you?
Yeah, long time no see. And Uncle Edward.
You too.
Now
Haven't
you
seen
look like a crocodile with your white hair.
Yeah,
and
we're
we're
the
going to
same.
meet Bujang Senang, and I'll explain to you. But before that, let's go for crocodile feeding.
All right, I'm curious.
You lead the way.
This is the famous or infamous Bujang Senang, the white-backed crocodile, the only white-backed crocodile in Malaysia, and the biggest crocodile and the longest crocodile in Malaysia.
So why was this crocodile famous? Why are we looking at it here today?
The name Bujang Senang is something coined by the natives themselves, the Iban themselves. In some ways, the Iban revered this white-backed crocodile. This crocodile used to cruise right up to Sri Aman and cruise down again, and they said no problem until he killed the first pengulu. The pengulu was killed in 1982. Exactly 10 years later, May 21st, in 1992, he killed the niece of this pengulu. So a curse was put on this white-backed crocodile.
How did they actually manage to capture and kill the crocodile?
The villagers were told that a white-backed crocodile had taken this lady. So they rushed there and they blocked this river. It's a tributary of the Batang Lupar. They blocked it so this crocodile couldn't go downriver and escape into the Batang Lupar, had to go upriver. And they chased it upriver a couple of hours and they pumped it with shotgun bullets, spears, and name it, all kinds of weapons.
Uncle James, how exactly did it become the source of so many local myths and legends?
To answer your question, you have to follow me to Batang Lupar.
Okay, you lead the way. I'll help you.
This is Batang Lupar, the lair of the largest crocodile in Malaysia, Bujang Senang.
So, Uncle James, now that we're here, can you please tell me about the legend of Bujang Senang?
There is a legend which goes back 200 years. Those were the days when the Iban were not united.
"200 years ago, there lived an infamous Iban warrior from Saribas called Lungu, who decided to go on a raid to Batang Lupar. Despite being wounded, Lungu appeared to have supernatural powers that made him invulnerable. Lungu became a menace, killing many people he considered to be his enemies. The people of Batang Lupar Longhouse appealed to his wife for help. Lungu's wife revealed to the distraught people of the Longhouse in Batang Lupar that Lungu would lose his powers if he touched the water of the Batang Lupar. One fine day, the strong men of the Longhouse ambushed Lungu and dragged him down to the river. There, they chopped his head off and buried him upside down. That night, as the water of the Batang Lupar rose slowly, the deities of the river still had the favor of Lungu. They turned him into a massive white crocodile. Since then, Lungu is said to be avenging his murderers and their descendants. This great big white crocodile then assumed the name Bujang Senang, as it terrorizes its enemies and takes a life every year. Why the name Bujang Senang? What does that mean?
Bujang in Malay means bachelor, and James Brooke was a bachelor. And one of his famous ships in many battles was the Jolly Bachelor. So in translation, Bujang Senang means the Jolly Bachelor.
Jolly Bachelor.
Yeah. It ties in with Lungu, who was a Jolly Bachelor himself.
Of course.
But there are many versions to this story of Bujang Senang.
Yes, I have another version of the story, and it involved a man called Simalungun. He was very, very famous as a headhunter, and he took many hates.
It fascinates me to see how important the interpretations of dreams are to the Iban people. Dreams have kept our folktales and myths alive for centuries. Is the story of a legendary Iban warrior, Simalungun, a myth, or was he part of real history? Simalungun was born to the tribe of the Skrang Iban and lived in a longhouse on the banks of Sungai Skrang. It was a time when the Skrang Iban and the Subuyao Dayaks had their intertribal wars. It was a time when the Ibans practiced mengayau, or headhunting. The battles between various groups of Ibans who lived at the mouths of different rivers continued in irregular intervals even after the arrival of the White Rajas. When the White Rajas came into rule, the Ibans of Lingga, Subuyao, and Unduk joined the White Rajas. There was a great battle in Batang Maru, where the Malay and Iban warriors, helped by the Royal Navy, fought the Skrang warriors. The fleet had to fight their way up the river, passing several smaller longhouses on their way to the Skrang main village. Once at Batang Maru, they started their attack with rocket fire and pursued them with overwhelming force. As the warriors and their families fled from the naval assault, they ran straight into the enemy hidden in the jungle. Before the attack from the water, Brooke's army had landed downstream and circled round into the jungle behind Batang Maru. It was a long battle that went on for many hours in the darkness. Many warrior ships were sunk and hundreds killed or captured. Simalungun was mortally wounded during the battle. But he made a seemingly miraculous recovery, and villagers were very suspicious if he had practiced some kind of ritual to the spirits of the jungle. The warriors from rival Sea Dayak tribes and longhouses did not stand a chance against him in battle. Many suspected that Simalungun practiced a mystic art that caused his body to become invulnerable to weapons. None of his enemy's weapons could wound him, so it was impossible to kill him. Simalungun's uncle was a powerful shaman from the old longhouse. He had taught young Simalungun about the laws of the jungle and also how to fight. It was common knowledge between the Iban that warriors who practiced these secret arts had to observe certain customs that forbid them in associating with particular persons, places, or things. If they were to break the taboo, they would become vulnerable again and become easy targets for their enemies. Simalungun's taboo was a well-kept secret. Only he and his uncle, the shaman, knew about it. It was not easy to track Simalungun down because he lived a quiet life in his longhouse, only showing himself when needed. If there was a surprise attack by rival tribes, Simalungun was there to protect his people. He also led groups of warriors on raids against other tribes that were unfriendly towards his tribe. Simalungun always returned with half a dozen heads of the enemy to be smoked and hung inside the longhouse. He was an expert in mengayao, the art of chopping off and collecting enemy heads. Those who stood against him had no chance of defeating him in battle. One fine day, a group of warriors from a rival tribe conspired to find the secret of how Simalungun gained his power to protect his body from weapons. They envied Simalungun, who seemed to be invincible. They hungered for his powers. His enemies moved through the jungle, hiding under the canopy of giant leaves and tall branches. They waited for the right time and kidnapped Simalungun's wife. They took her to the camp downriver at Batang Lupar. They tried hard to get the secret about Simalungun's taboo, but soon realized that she too did not know the secret. Simalungun received a message from one of his friends in the longhouse that the enemy had kidnapped his wife and were heading downriver. In a few hours, Simalungun managed to track down the camp where his wife was held hostage. Simalungun called to the enemies to release his wife. The enemies were shocked at how he had found them so quickly. In a panic, the kidnappers released his wife, who ran towards him along the riverbank. But when she was halfway to the tree line, one of the kidnappers hurled his javelin, piercing her from the back, killing her on the spot. Simalungun flew into a rage. He moved like lightning, dashing through the water to his wife, who lay on the sandbank, bleeding. Simalungun fought like a demon who had lost his mind. Heads flew as his sword swung in many directions. Many enemies were thrown into the river. Bodies dropped like flies. But Simalungun was outnumbered. Some of his enemies noticed that their weapons wounded Simalungun. He had broken his taboo when he stepped into the water. Soon, spears from the enemies flew from many directions, piercing him in his back and chest. Finally, the mighty warrior Simalungun crashed down on the bank next to his beloved wife. Later that night, Simalungun's uncle, the shaman, had a dream, and in the dream, Simalungun told his uncle that he wanted vengeance. The next morning, the shaman traveled downriver to the banks of Batang Lupar, where the warrior was slain. The shaman performed a ritual to the water spirits residing in the river and cast a few spells. The spirits turned Simalungun's corpse into a giant crocodile. And from that day onwards, Simalungun started his reign of terror in Batang Lupar, seeking revenge on his enemies and their descendants who lived along the river.
So Laura, we have come to the end of our riverine adventure. Do you find this trip interesting?
It's been amazing. Thank you so much. I've learned so much about my culture and about my ancestors. I think we've really helped to bring the folktales to life. So thank you so much.
There are many more beautiful rivers, beautiful scenery that awaits you, and hopefully that you can make it in future.
I would love to.
Yeah, so let's go.